Don't move. The voice is calm. Practiced. Not loud enough to be negotiable. Leah Shawn freezes in her doorway, one shoe still in her hand, delivery jacket half-zipped over a thin t-shirt. Dawn hasn't finished arriving yet. The hallway smells like bleach and old concrete. 3 men stand in front of her. Not police. No sirens. No shouting. No chaos. Just precision. Dark uniforms. No visible names. Eyes flat and measuring, already counting distances. One of them blocks the stairs. Another controls the hall behind her. The third steps forward. "Miss Shawn," he says evenly. "We're here about the man you've been feeding." Her throat closes. Victor. The old man who never asked for seconds. The one who always ate slowly. The one who watched the street like it might blink first. What did he do? Leah asks, barely audible. The man's jaw tightens. That's what we're trying to figure out. If you've ever helped someone without knowing who they really were, don't turn away now. Some kindnesses come with a cost. 6 months earlier, Leah Shawn doesn't know Victor Calder's name. She only knows the bus stop. 6:12 a.m. Same cracked pavement. Same bent bench. Same old man sitting too still for someone who sleeps outside. Leah is 23, working deliveries in the mornings and cleaning offices at night. Her phone is always dying. Her bank balance never stops blinking red. Hunger has become a background noise she's learned to ignore. She notices him the way people notice shadows, without meaning to. Until the morning the order cancels. She's already picked up the food. Sandwich. Soup. Fruit. The app glitches. No refund. No return. She stands there holding a bag she can't afford to waste. Victor is awake when she approaches. His eyes lift first. Sharp. Assessing. "I don't have money," he says before she speaks. "I know," Leah replies. "I wasn't asking." She offers the bag. He doesn't reach for it right away. "You shouldn't do that," he says quietly. She shrugs. "I already did." That's the first thing that surprises him. He takes the food carefully, like it's something that could break. That should have been the end. It isn't. The next day, she brings coffee. The day after, another sandwich. Then fruit when she can spare it. Soup when it's cold. She never asks why he's there. He never asks why she keeps coming. They sit beside each other, not touching, sharing a silence that doesn't demand explanation. Victor eats slowly. Always alert. Always facing the street. "You eat like you're guarding something," Leah jokes once. "Habit," he answers. No smile. She notices things she can't explain. The scars on his wrists. Too clean. Too deliberate. The way people pass him and instinctively speed up, like their bodies know something their minds don't. The way Victor stiffens when certain cars slow down, then relaxes when they keep moving. One morning, Leah is late. She expects him to be gone. He isn't. "You're late," he says calmly. "You waited." "Yes." That single word sits between them, heavier than it should. Weeks pass. Leah keeps bringing food even when she shouldn't. Even when her fridge is empty. Even when her stomach hurts. One morning, she doesn't eat at all. Victor notices. "You're shaking," he says. "I'm fine." That's a lie. She looks away. Without a word, he breaks his sandwich in half and holds it out to her. She hesitates. "Eat," he says. Not gentle. Not cruel. Final. She eats. That's the moment something dangerous begins. Because Victor Calder has survived betrayals, purges, and men who tried to erase him from the world. But he has never survived someone choosing him without fear. And Leah Shawn has just become something the directorate never planned for. If you've ever given more than you could afford, stay. Walking away now would mean you never really stayed at all. Leah doesn't notice the moment things become irreversible. That's how it always happens. No alarms. No warning. Just a small decision that refuses to stay small. It's raining the morning Victor collapses into the doorway. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just a misstep. A shoulder catching the frame. A breath that doesn't finish. Leah is there because she came early, Again. She sees the tremor in his hand before he feels it himself. Sit, she says. I'm fine, Victor answers automatically. That's a lie. He doesn't argue this time. She guides him to the bench under the bus shelter, her fingers barely touching his sleeve. He smells like soap and cold metal. His skin is too cool. You should go, he says, eyes scanning the street even as his body betrays him. Not happening. A black sedan rolls past. Too slow. Too quiet. Victor's jaw tightens. Leah, he says softly. If anyone asks. Stop, she cuts in. I don't need instructions. She pours coffee from her thermos. He drinks it because she tells him to. That's new. A minute passes. Then another. The shaking eases, but his breathing stays shallow. Hospital, she says. No. Victor. No hospitals. The word isn't fear. It's policy. She studies his face. Not old. Worn. Like something valuable that's been hidden too long. Then we're going to my place, she says. You can sit. You can rest. You can not die on a public sidewalk. He almost laughs. Almost. Her apartment is barely big enough for one person, let alone two. A mattress on the floor. A hot plate. A chair with one loose leg. Victor takes it all in with one glance. You live like this? He asks. You sit on cardboard, she replies. We all make choices. She makes him lie down. Forces water into him. Stays too close. Watches his chest rise and fall. This isn't your problem, he says. It is now. Something shifts. Not gratitude. Recognition. Victor closes his eyes, calculating risks he hasn't calculated in years. Letting her see him like this is dangerous. Letting her care is worse. Hours pass. Rain turns to evening. Leah dozes in the chair, chin on her chest. Victor wakes to the sound of her breathing. Soft. Steady. Alive. He hasn't protected anyone in decades. He hasn't been protected in longer. His phone vibrates in his pocket. A secure line he hasn't used since disappearing. Directorate, we've lost your signal. He turns the phone off. The next morning, the man across the street watches Leah leave the building. He doesn't follow. He reports. Leah keeps bringing food. Now to her apartment. Victor insists on paying. She refuses. You don't get to buy this, she says. Everything has a price. Not this. She doesn't know that for Victor Calder, nothing has ever been free. They settle into a new routine. Closer. Riskier. He walks her to the bus stop now. Stands between her and the street without thinking. Corrects her posture when she lifts heavy bags. Notices when she hasn't eaten. You can't keep skipping meals, he says. She smirks. That concern I hear. Logistics. She laughs. He watches her like he's memorizing something he won't be allowed to keep. One evening, she asks, "What were you before?" He answers without looking at her. Someone people listen to. Military. He shakes his head once. Above that. She should stop asking. She doesn't. Are you dangerous? Yes. The honesty startles her. To me? She asks quietly. He meets her eyes. Never. That promise costs him more than blood ever did. The directorate moves carefully. They don't rush men like Victor Calder. They observe. Patterns. Weaknesses. Attachments. Leah Shawn becomes a red mark on a screen. Variable identified. One afternoon, Leah finds Victor bleeding. Not badly. But enough. Who did this? She asks. Someone testing if I'm still breathing. You didn't fight back? I did. She cleans the cut with shaking hands. He lets her. You're not just an old man, she says. No. You're not poor. No. You're not telling me everything. No. She exhales. Okay. That's it. No demands. No panic. Just acceptance. Victor feels the weight of it press into his ribs. You're not afraid, he says. I am, she replies. I just don't run. That night, a car stops at the end of the block. A man speaks quietly into a phone. She's inside the perimeter. Another voice answers. Then she's already in it. Leah dreams of water rising. Victor dreams of fires he put out and cities he buried. In the morning, he tells her the truth, almost. There are people who won't let me disappear, he says. Then don't, she answers. Stay. He should push her away. He doesn't. That's the catalyst. Not the directorate. Not the blood. Not the men watching from the dark. The catalyst is that Victor Calder, who built empires on fear, chooses to stay where Leah Sean tells him to. And the world will not forgive either of them for it. If you've ever crossed a line without realizing it was one, stay with this story. Some choices don't let you turn back. Leah realizes she's being followed on a Tuesday. Not the dramatic kind of followed. No footsteps speeding up. No shadow stretching wrong. It's quieter than that. A car that appears twice on her walk to the bus stop, man who pretends to check his phone when she looks up. A pressure in the air that doesn't leave when she does. Victor notices before she says anything. You changed your pace, he says that evening as she sets food on the table. Why? She hesitates. Then, someone's watching. He stills. Not panic. Calculation. How many? I've seen one. He nods once. That's never the real number. That night, Victor doesn't sleep. He sits by the window, the city bleeding light through the blinds, counting reflections in glass, listening to engines idle too long. His phone vibrates. A different line. Older. Deeper. Directorate, you broke protocol. He turns it face down. The next morning, Leah is late again. Not by minutes. By an hour. Victor's jaw tightens with something unfamiliar, fear sharpened by attachment. When she finally appears, breathless, eyes wide, he knows. They stopped me, she says quietly. Asked questions. Who? Men who didn't give names. What did you say? Nothing. That's a lie. He hears it immediately. He doesn't call her on it. That's how the distance starts. Not with shouting. With restraint. The directorate escalates. Lee's work schedule changes without explanation. Her delivery routes shift. Her night cleaning job gets temporarily suspended. Invisible hands closing doors. She pretends it's coincidence. Victor doesn't. You're being isolated, he says. So are you, she snaps back. I'm not the only one with secrets. The words cut deeper than she intends. He looks at her like she's placed a blade exactly where he bleeds. That evening, she doesn't come home. She texts, I'm safe. Don't wait up. Victor waits anyway. At 2:13 a.m., the door opens. Leah steps inside flanked by two men. Directorate men. They don't touch her. That's the point. Victor Calder, one of them says calmly. You've been difficult to locate. Victor stands slowly. Let her go. She's free, the man replies. We just had a conversation. Leah won't look at him. That's the second cut. We're here to remind you, the man continues, that you belong to us. And attachments complicate efficiency. Victor's voice drops. You threaten her again, and you'll what? The man interrupts softly. Come back? You already have. They leave without another word. Leah sinks onto the chair, shaking. I didn't tell them anything important, she says. Just small things. Victor's silence is worse than anger. You confirmed I'm alive, he says. I was scared. And now they know what you are to me. She looks up. What am I to you? He doesn't answer. That night, Victor disappears. Leah wakes to an empty apartment and a note written in precise, careful handwriting. This is the part where I protect you by leaving. She crumples it in her fist. No, she whispers to the empty room. You don't get to decide that alone. She finds him by following the feeling. The way you know when something precious is about to break. A warehouse by the river. Rusted. Quiet. She steps inside and feels the shift immediately. Guns. Men in the dark. Victor in the center, blood soaking his sleeve. You shouldn't be here, he says. Neither of them believes that anymore. The directorate commander steps forward. She followed you, he tells Victor. You failed to control your weakness. Leah moves without thinking. Steps between them. Don't, Victor warns. She raises her hands. If you want him, she says, voice steady, you go through me. Silence crashes into the room. The commander smiles. That, he says, is exactly the problem. Everything happens fast. A shove. A shot fired into the ceiling. Leah dragged back. Victor breaks. He moves like the man he used to be, efficient, lethal, contained. 2 men down. 1 screaming. But numbers win. They take Victor. They leave Leah kneeling on concrete, blood on her hands that isn't hers. You did this, the commander says gently as they pass her. By staying. The warehouse empties. Leah stays on the floor until dawn. The hunt has begun. Victor Calder is no longer hiding. And Leah Shawn has been marked as leverage. If you've ever stayed too long and paid for it, don't abandon this story here. Leave a trace that you were with them. Your silence weighs more than you think. Leah doesn't get a choice. That's the first thing she understands when the black van stops outside her building. No sirens, no rush. Just inevitability. 2 men step out. Same quiet authority. Same controlled movements. Directorate. Miss Shawn, one of them says politely. You're coming with us. I'm not, she answers. They don't argue. They don't need to. The apartment door across the hall opens a crack. A neighbor peeks out, sees the men, sees Lee's face, and closes it again. Locks click. Curtains shift. Leah is invisible again. The van smells like leather and disinfectant. No windows. The city disappears. She thinks of Victor. Blood on his sleeve. The way he looked at her in the warehouse. Not angry, not disappointed. Afraid. That hurts more. They take her underground. Literally. A facility beneath a building that doesn't exist on maps. Concrete corridors. White lights. Cameras that hum softly, always watching. They don't put her in a cell. They put her in a room. Bed. Chair. Table. Bathroom with no mirror. Control disguised as comfort. Hours pass. Maybe a day. She loses track. Then the door opens. Victor is pushed inside. He stumbles, catches himself, straightens. Still dangerous. Even injured. Don't touch her, he growls before the door closes behind him. The room seals. They are alone. Leah rushes to him without thinking, hands already searching for wounds. You're bleeding. Stop, he says, but not hard enough. She presses a cloth to his side. Feels heat. Feels life. You shouldn't have come, he says. You left, she snaps back. Silence fills the space between them. Loud. Accusatory. They used you, he continues, voice low. That's what they do. They took you, she fires back. What was I supposed to do? He looks at her then. Really looks. The anger drains. You should have run, he says quietly. And leave you. Yes. She shakes her head. You don't get to decide who I abandon. That lands. Harder than fists ever could. They keep them together on purpose. Leah figures that out by the second day. No guards inside. No interruptions. Just cameras. Observation. The directorate wants to see what happens when weakness is boxed in with power. Victor sits against the wall most of the time. Conserving energy. Watching everything. Leah talks. Not because she's calm. Because silence would let fear win. She tells him about her childhood. About learning to stretch meals. About sleeping in laundromats when rent fell apart. You know how to survive, Victor says. So do you. He almost laughs. They bring food twice a day. Enough for one. Victor pushes the tray toward her. No. Yes. You need it. So do you. They stare at each other until Leah breaks the bread in half and hands it back. A compromise neither of them likes. At night, the lights dim but never turn off. Leah sleeps in fits. Victor doesn't sleep at all. When she wakes shaking from a dream she won't describe, he sits closer. Not touching. Close enough. You're safe, he says, voice rough. Liar. With me, he corrects. That's the truth. On the third day, a man enters. Senior. Controlled. Eyes like glass. Victor Calder, he says. You've been busy. Victor doesn't answer. The man looks at Leah. You, he says, were supposed to be temporary. Leah lifts her chin. Sorry to disappoint. The man smiles thinly. We don't make threats here, he says. We make corrections. He slides a file onto the table. Photos. Dates. Surveillance. Lee's routes. Her jobs. Her brother's clinic visits. Victor's breathing changes. You touch him, Victor starts. The man raises a finger. We won't, he says calmly. If you cooperate. Victor laughs. It's humorless. Dangerous. And if I don't? The man looks at Leah again. That depends how long she lasts in your world. The door closes. Lee's hands are shaking now. I'm sorry, she whispers. I didn't mean. Victor crosses the room in 2 steps. Stops just short of touching her. This is not your fault, he says fiercely. This is mine. Because you stayed? Because I let myself need. That word hangs between them. Need. They sit on the floor together, back against the wall. Close enough to feel each other breathe. They're going to make you choose, Leah says. Victor nods. They already have. What will you do? He looks at her. Eyes dark. Certain. Whatever keeps you alive. That terrifies her more than any threat. Because she knows what he's capable of. And she knows what she's becoming to him. Outside the room, the directorate watches the feed. 2 silhouettes on the floor. Close. Unbreakable. Containment is failing, someone mutters. Inside, Leah rests her head against Victor's shoulder. Neither of them moves away. If you've ever stayed when leaving would have saved you, don't disappear now. Staying leaves a mark. Let yours be known. The truth doesn't arrive all at once. It leaks. In fragments and silences that last too long, and the way men stop pretending when they think the cameras have already decided. On the 4th day, the room changes. Not the walls. Not the lights. The air. Victor feels it first. They're done testing, he murmurs. Leah looks up. How do you know? Because they're about to explain. The door opens without warning. The senior man returns. Glass eyes, steady hands. He carries no weapon. He doesn't need one. Victor Calder, he says. You were never meant to disappear. Victor doesn't move. I resigned. You defected, the man corrects calmly. From us. Leah turns slowly. From who? The man looks at her like she's finally earned context. The directorate, he says. The structure that made him. Victor exhales through his nose. Controlled. Measured. You were never under me, Victor says. You were under the board. The man smiles thinly. And you were the board's sharpest knife. Lee's chest tightens. Knife, she repeats. Victor doesn't look at her. Cleaner, the man continues. Arbiter. Final authority. When diplomacy failed, Victor Calder decided who stayed alive. Leah swallows. That's not. It is, Victor says quietly. The admission lands harder than any accusation. You don't kill civilians, the man adds. You never did. That was why they trusted you. You were principled. Victor's jaw tightens. I was controlled. And then you weren't, the man replies. You refused an order. Leah turns fully to Victor. What order? He closes his eyes. To remove a city block, he says. Because it was inconvenient. Her breath catches. I walked away, Victor continues. I burned my identity. I disappeared. And we let you, the man says. Because you were useful later. Leah feels something click into place. The waiting. The watching. The patience. You were never hiding, she whispers. They were letting you rest. Victor meets her eyes for the first time. Yes. The man slides another file onto the table. Inside, dates, photos, financial records. Lee's name. Her routes. Her jobs. Her kindness. You, the man says, nodding at Leah, were not an accident. Her stomach drops. What do you mean? You fed him, the man replies. Every day. At the same time. In public. You stabilized him. Victor's voice turns lethal. You monitored her? We identified you first, the man says. She came after. Leah shakes her head. No. I chose him. And that, the man answers gently, is what made you valuable. Victor lunges. He's restrained instantly. Invisible restraints snapping tight. Electricity humming under his skin. Leah cries out. Stop. The man raises a hand. The pain stops. Easy, he says. We're not monsters. Victor breathes hard. You used her. Yes, the man says simply. And now she's leverage. Lee's knees weaken, but she stays standing. Then I'll go, she says. Let him go. I'll do whatever you want. Victor snaps his head up. No. The man studies her with interest. You'd trade yourself? Yes. Victor strains against the restraints. Leah don't. She doesn't look at him. I started this, she says. I'll finish it. The man considers. You misunderstand. We don't want you. We want him functional. He turns to Victor. You were our conscience, he says. You made us efficient without becoming sloppy. We need that again. Victor laughs bitterly. You need someone to carry the guilt. Yes. Silence stretches. Then Victor says the thing they don't expect. She didn't betray me. The man pauses. She was never the weakness, Victor continues. I was. Leah looks at him, eyes shining with unshed tears. You didn't break me, Victor says. You reminded me why I left. The man sighs, almost disappointed. Then you've already chosen. He gestures to the door. Remove her. Lee's heart slams. Wait. No, Victor says sharply. Don't touch her. The man turns back. You can't have both. Victor straightens despite the restraints. Then you won't have me. The man studies him for a long moment. Then, something unexpected. He nods. Very well, he says. We'll try a different pressure. The restraints disengage. The door opens. Leah is pushed out. She twists back. Victor. He steps toward her, stopping just short as guards move between them. Listen to me, he says urgently. Whatever they tell you. I won't leave you, she says, voice breaking. He softens. Yes, he says. You will. That's how you save us both. The door slams. Leah is alone in a corridor that hums with power. Victor is left standing in the room, blood seeping through his bandage, eyes burning with something far more dangerous than rage. Clarity. The truth is complete now. Leah Shawn was never the enemy. She was the mirror. And Victor Calder has just remembered exactly who he was, and why the directorate should have never let him fall in love. Leah is kept in a room that pretends to be gentle. Soft light. Warm air. A bed that doesn't creak. Water that runs hot on command. Mercy as strategy. She sits on the edge of the mattress and counts her breaths until they stop shaking. The corridor outside hums with power, electric, constant, alive. Somewhere beyond it, Victor Calder is being turned into a question the directorate expects him to answer with blood. She refuses to cry. Crying wastes time. Instead, she listens. Footsteps. Doors. The cadence of men who don't rush because nothing can stop them. Hours pass. Maybe more. Then the door opens. Victor steps in. He's walking under his own power, which tells her two things at once. They need him alive, and they want him cooperative. His sleeve is changed. The blood is gone. The injury remains, carried in the careful way he holds his side. They close the door behind him. No guards. Just cameras. Leah stands so fast the chair skids back. Are you? Don't, he says gently. I'm here. She crosses the space between them without asking permission and presses her hands to his chest. Feels the thud of his heart. Too fast. Too strong. Still his. You shouldn't be here, she whispers. He almost smiles. That's what you said last time. She pulls back, anger flashing through fear. They said they'd remove me. They tried, he answers. I said no. Her voice drops. You don't get veto power here. I do, he says softly. Because they still need me. She searches his face for the lie and doesn't find it. They sit on the bed, shoulders almost touching. Not touching yet. Like a truce neither wants to break. They told me what you were, Leah says. Victor exhales. And you stayed. I stayed because you stayed, she replies. Don't make this sound noble. He looks at her then, really looks. The lines at the corners of his eyes. The steadiness she didn't expect to find in herself reflected back. You fed a man the world told you to ignore, he says. That's not nothing. She scoffs. I fed you lunch. You fed me time, he corrects. I'd forgotten what it felt like. The admission sits between them. Fragile. Earned. They want me to choose, Victor continues. Return and become useful. Or resist and make you suffer. Lee's jaw tightens. Then choose me. He shakes his head. That's not how survival works. She turns toward him fully now. Then teach me how you survive. For a moment, the room is only their breathing. Then Victor speaks, slow and precise. You don't run, he says. You don't threaten. You don't plead. You make yourself indispensable. Leah nods. I can do that. I know, he says. You already did. He tells her small truths. Not the kind that set off alarms. The kind that opened doors. How he learned to read rooms before people spoke. How silence can be louder than weapons. How power hates uncertainty and chases patterns. You, he says, are an anomaly. She huffs. I bring sandwiches. You bring consistency, he corrects. That's rarer. Leah leans back on her hands. They think I'm leverage. They think wrong, Victor says. You're my anchor. The word lands heavier than love ever could. She looks down at their hands. Notices they're close enough that her pinky could brush his. She lets it. Just once. He doesn't pull away. They'll try to turn us, she says. They'll try, he agrees. And they'll fail. How are you so sure? Because they don't understand this part, he says, nodding to the space between them. They think attachment weakens resolve. Leah lifts her eyes. Doesn't it? Victor considers. It clarifies it. A knock at the door. Controlled. Polite. A voice through the intercom. 5 minutes. Victor stands. Tests his weight. Then sits again, closer this time. If they separate us, he says, you do exactly what they ask. She shakes her head. No. You do, he insists. And you remember everything. Faces. Names. Patterns. I don't want to be your weapon. You won't be, he says. You'll be the record. Silence stretches. Leah swallows. And you? I'll endure, he says. I always do. She reaches for him then. Grips his sleeve. Firm. You don't get to endure alone. The door opens. Men enter. Efficient. Expressionless. Time, one says. They separate them with practiced care. Victor doesn't fight. He doesn't look back. Leah watches until the door closes, then presses her palm to the place where he was sitting. Warmth lingers. Proof. Outside the room, the directorate notes elevated vitals, delayed compliance, an unexpected variable. Inside, Leah steadies herself and becomes exactly what Victor taught her to be. Indispensable. If you've ever learned how to stay when everything tells you to break, stay with this story. Let it know you're still here. The choice is presented to Leah like mercy. That's how the directorate does it. Never as a threat. never as violence first. Always as an option. They bring her into a different room this time. Larger. Warmer. A table. 2 chairs. A screen already on. The senior man is there again. Glass eyes. Calm mouth. "You've been very cooperative," he says. Leah doesn't answer. On the screen, a live feed appears. A hospital room. Her brother. Asleep. For in his arm. Chest rising and falling in a rhythm she knows by heart. Lee's knees nearly give out. "He had a complication," the man says conversationally. "An infection. Treatable. Expensive." Leah grips the back of the chair. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because we prefer honesty," he replies. "You understand leverage now." She stares at the screen. Counts the seconds between breaths. Forces herself not to cry. "What do you want?" she asks. The man folds his hands. "Victor Calder has refused reactivation," he says. "He's made himself difficult." Lee's chest tightens. "We don't need him to return fully," the man continues. "We need him unstable enough to comply." She turns slowly. "So hurt him." The man tilts his head. "No. You." The room goes very quiet. "We want you to convince him," he says. "To tell him you were wrong. That this," he gestures vaguely, "was a mistake." Leah swallows. "And if I don't?" The man doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. The screen zooms slightly on her brother's face. Alive, fragile, waiting on a decision he doesn't know is being made. "What exactly do you want me to say?" Leah asks. The man smiles. "Just barely. Tell him you cooperated," he says. "Tell him you chose us. Tell him you regret staying." Her voice breaks. "That will destroy him." "Yes," the man agrees. "But he'll survive." She closes her eyes. Victor's voice echoes in her head. "You're not leverage. You're the record." She opens her eyes again. "Fine," she says. The man nods once. They bring Victor in 10 minutes later. He's weaker than before. Not broken. Not yet. When he sees her, something in his face loosens. Relief flashes before he can stop it. "Are you okay?" he asks immediately. Leah doesn't answer. That's the first wound. They sit her across from him. Too far to touch. The cameras hum. Victor senses it instantly. What did they do? Leah lifts her eyes. And lies. "I told them what they wanted," she says. Victor freezes. "What?" His voice stays level. Controlled. Dangerous. "I cooperated," she continues, forcing the words out. "I gave them information. Routes. Patterns." The silence that follows is brutal. "You're lying," he says softly. She shakes her head. "I was tired of hiding. Tired of being afraid." His eyes search her face. "Look at me." She does. And forces herself not to soften. "They promised safety," she says. "Stability. A way out." "For you," he says. "Yes." "And for me." She hesitates. Just long enough. No. That hesitation is the knife. Victor leans back slowly, like he's been hit somewhere internal. Somewhere fatal. "You chose them," he says. "Yes." The word tastes like ash. "They threatened you," he says. Not a question. No. Another lie. "They offered you something," he continues. "Yes." "What?" She thinks of her brother. The 4. The breath. "A future," she says. Victor nods once. That nod costs him everything. "I warned you," he says quietly. "About my world." "I know," she replies. "That's why I'm leaving it." The words land exactly where the directorate wants them to. Victor closes his eyes for a moment. When he opens them, something fundamental is gone. "You were my mistake," he says. The words are precise. Controlled. They devastate her anyway. "I know," she whispers. He stands. "Then we're done," he says. He doesn't look at her again. The guards move in. As Victor is taken away, Leah finally breaks. Not outwardly. Inside. Her hands curl into fists, so tight her nails cut skin. She doesn't scream. She doesn't beg. She watches him go, carrying the weight of his hatred because it keeps him alive. The senior man watches her carefully. "Well done," he says. "You've achieved compliance." She turns to him, eyes dead calm. "You'll keep your word," she says. "About my brother." He smiles. "Of course." They leave her alone. Hours later, she's allowed one thing. A message. She types with shaking fingers. To Victor, "I did what I had to." She deletes it. Too soft. She types again. "Don't look for me." She sends that one. Because if he believes she's gone, truly gone, he'll survive the hate. And survival is the only love left to her now. In another wing of the facility, Victor Calder sits alone. He doesn't rage. He doesn't shout. He goes very still. The kind of still that precedes annihilation. "They broke you," a voice says from the shadows. Victor lifts his head. "No," he replies calmly. "They clarified me." Because betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from love. And Victor Calder has just been given a reason to burn the world, or remake it. For her. Victor Calder stops being compliant the moment Leah disappears. Not loudly. Not visibly. The directorate mistakes stillness for surrender. That's their first error. He eats when told. Sleeps when ordered. Answers questions with measured restraint. He becomes what they want him to be, predictable. Inside, he is cataloging. Footsteps. Shift changes. The cadence of guards who think the war is already won. They give him access again. Limited. Controlled. Enough rope to prove he won't hang anyone with it. They are wrong. 3 days after Lee's betrayal, Victor is brought into a glass-walled room overlooking the city. Night. Lights like veins. The senior man joins him, hands folded. "You see," the man says. Attachment resolved. Victor looks out over the skyline. "You misunderstand." "Oh. She wasn't a weakness," Victor replies calmly. "She was a test." The man smiles faintly. "And you failed it." Victor turns. "No," he says. "I passed." The man's smile falters, just slightly. Victor leans forward. "You wanted compliance. You got it. But you mistook my silence for obedience." "You're still here," the man counters. "She's gone." Victor's eyes darken. "Is she?" The man stiffens. That's the second error. Because the directorate moved Leah. Not carefully enough. They placed her brother under enhanced protection. Private room. New doctors. New medications. Victor notices the name on a terminal during a routine check-in. A typo. 1 letter off. Enough. That night, Victor makes a decision he swore never to make again. He reaches back. Not to the Empire. To the people who survived it. The ones who owe him not loyalty, but debt. The city breathes differently after that. Power shifts quietly. Accounts freeze. A safe house goes dark. A courier never arrives. The directorate feels the pressure and tightens its grip on Leah. They bring her back into the interrogation room. "You told him to disappear," the senior man says. "He didn't." Leah says nothing. "You were supposed to break him," the man continues. "Instead, he's destabilizing our operations." She lifts her eyes. "You promised my brother would be safe." "He is," the man says. "For now." That's the third error. Because "for now" is a threat. Leah speaks for the first time in days. "You don't understand him," she says quietly. The man chuckles. "I trained him." "No," she replies. "You used him." That night, Victor breaches containment. Not with guns. With permissions. Doors open for him because they've always opened for him. By the time the alarms start, he's already past them. Leah hears the first echo, distant, metallic, wrong. Her door opens. Victor stands there. Bruised. Controlled. Burning. She doesn't move. "You shouldn't be here," she says. "I know." "You hate me," she whispers. He steps inside. Closes the door. "I did," he says. For exactly 6 hours. Her breath shudders. And then, she asks. And then I realized you chose correctly. Tears finally spill. They threatened my brother, she says. I didn't have a choice. Victor cups her face, gentle, reverent. You chose life, he says. That's never betrayal. The building shudders. Alarms howl. They're coming, Leah says. Victor nods. We're leaving. What about them? They'll survive, he answers. This place won't. They move fast. Corridors. Stairs. An elevator Victor overrides with muscle memory. Guards hesitate when they see him. That hesitation costs them everything. They reach the vehicle bay. The senior man is waiting. Gun raised. Steady. Victor, he says. Think. I am. You walk away now, the man continues, and we'll forget this ever happened. Victor looks at Leah. Then back at the man. No, he says calmly. You don't get to erase her. The man sneers. She made you weak. Victor fires. Once. Clean. The gun clatters. The choice is made. They disappear into the night as the facility goes dark behind them. Fire suppression systems roar. Lights die. The directorate fractures. Later, much later, they stop. A safe house by the water. Leah sits on the edge of the bed, shaking. Victor kneels in front of her. I will lose everything, he says. The power. The reach. She touches his face. I never wanted those things. He nods. I know. And you? She asks. What do you want? He answers without hesitation. You. Silence fills the room. Then she nods. Then stay, she says. He does. Not as a king. Not as a weapon. As a man who chose mercy over control. Outside, the city keeps breathing. Inside, something dangerous and fragile survives. Love, earned through fire, and chosen anyway. They don't disappear the way movies pretend people do. There is no clean ending. No empty road. No sunrise that forgives everything. They relocate twice in 3 days. First a coastal town where the sea smells like rust and salt, then inland, somewhere quieter, older, less curious. Victor knows how to choose places that don't ask questions. Leah learns quickly which questions not to answer. The world doesn't stop hunting overnight. It just loses its certainty. News breaks in fragments, the classified facility compromised. An internal investigation. Names whispered, never printed. The directorate doesn't fall. It fractures. That's worse for them, and safer for everyone else. Leah sits at the small kitchen table of the final safe house, hands wrapped around a mug she hasn't touched. Outside, rain threads down the window like it's trying to get in. Victor stands by the sink, sleeves rolled, carefully cleaning a shallow cut on his forearm. No rush. No drama. You're bleeding, she says. I'm healing, he replies. She almost smiles. They've learned each other's language now. Not the soft kind. The precise one. That night, Victor tells her everything he never planned to tell anyone. Not in order. Not as confession. As inventory. The first command he gave. The first life he saved. The first order he refused. I told myself it was necessary, he says, voice low. Until one day I realized necessity had become habit. Leah listens without interrupting. She doesn't absolve him. She doesn't condemn him. She understands him. That's worse. I don't need you to be clean, she says quietly. I need you to be honest. He nods. I am, he says. With you. Days pass. Slowly. They establish routines that feel almost normal. Leah takes a job at a small clinic under a borrowed name. Night shifts. Fewer questions. She's good with people who are scared. Always has been. Victor becomes someone else. Not harmless. But contained. He fixes things around the house. Makes food she actually eats. Stands too close when strangers get too curious. One evening, a car idles too long across the street. Victor notices. Leah notices him noticing. Do we run? She asks. No, he says after a moment. We wait. The car leaves. That's the difference now. He doesn't decide alone. Weeks later, the truth catches up to them in a way neither expects. Lee's brother calls. Alive. Stable. Approved for long-term care. Benefits cleared. Protection no longer temporary. She hangs up and sits very still. Victor watches her face change. It's over, she says. He closes his eyes. The cost settles. He's lost everything that made him powerful. He's gained everything that makes him human. That night, they sit on the porch steps wrapped in the same blanket, the world quiet enough to hear insects and distant traffic. Do you regret it? Leah asks. He doesn't answer immediately. No, he says finally. But I will. She turns to him. That doesn't sound reassuring. It's honest, he replies. Regret means I remember who I was. Love means I choose who I am. She leans her head against his shoulder. For the first time, he lets himself rest. Months later, a letter arrives with no return address. Inside, a single page. The directorate has withdrawn interest and no further action authorized. Victor reads it once. Then burns it. They don't celebrate. They plant a small garden instead. Leah grows tomatoes badly. Victor pretends not to notice. They argue about soil like it matters more than anything else ever did. One afternoon, a young woman comes into the clinic, shaking, defensive, invisible in the way Leah once was. Leah sits with her after hours. Listens. Helps. That night, Victor watches Leah fall asleep mid-sentence and understands something with painful clarity. This is what the world tried to take from him. Not power. Not control. The chance to be chosen without fear. They never marry. They never hide either. They live in the open space between danger and peace, alert but not afraid, together but not owned. Love, in their world, is not a promise of safety. It is a promise of presence. And that is enough. If you've ever survived something that changed you, and still chose to love afterward, don't leave quietly. Let it be known you stayed. Stories like this only endure when someone carries them forward. Thank you for staying with this story to the very end. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you'll not miss out on the next video.